Get a head start on your next trophy buck. Order stand placement advanced techniques today at Closing the Distance.
Hi, I'm Matt Moore, and welcome to this week's Closing the Distance. It's a good one today. We have our cameras down in Old Mexico. We have a big 11 point, that's a dead deer walking. We have a very informative tip on how to correctly use that ozonics. And Brother Mark's back with us. Let's get started.
Closing the Distance is brought to you by Ozonics. Undetectable, undeniable. Hunter Safety System, dedicated to saving hunters' lives. Executioner Broadheads, born to kill. Treason, don't just blend, become. And by Citadel, revolutionary shoot-down shape. After the break, we've located a huge buck down in Old Mexico. Closing the Distance will be right back. Closing the Distance is made possible by Matthews Solo Cam. Catch us if you can. Tree limb quivers. There's only one tree limb quiver. Sword sights. Sharp solutions in aiming. Elusive Wildlife Technologies, taking the elusive out of wildlife. The Stage Deer Attractant, finally, a synthetic scent that works. And by the amazing Luminot. Can your Aeronaut do this?
Every deer hunter that I know wants to grow big bucks on their ground year after year after year. We're down in Old Mexico, and I want you to listen to the guys and listen to their strategies of how they successfully grow big bucks each year.
This year we started going down in the early fall, and I hooked up with Mark Budseye Jr. to go down and pull the cards from the game cameras. Now this may seem easy enough, but let me tell you, just checking cameras that are spread out over 10,000 acres, takes a long time. Not to mention downloading each photo and trying to document each buck. What we're trying to do is get a list of each age class buck and try to determine which ones are shooters.
Okay, our formula on choosing which bucks are considered shooters is through following the deer year to year. You'll find some bucks that they just peak around whatever they are, 150, 160, and they're not really doing any growing. So we need to take those bucks out in order to make room for younger bucks who have more potential. You don't want to shoot your top end deer every year, because what that does is takes out your best breeder, and that lowers your genetics on the ranch. So you want to take out the bottom deer and the deer that don't grow.
I want to give a shout out to all the guys out here at Rancho Cuevas for letting me come shoot the biggest buck of my life. This management buck is going to score somewhere around 150, so all you other ranches out there better take some notes. These guys know what they're doing.
And we're looking for a deer that's going to be at least 7 years or older. And that takes a lot of years of a lot of trail cam pictures. You got to really follow your deer and know what you're doing. But as long as you take out the right deer, your genetic line will always increase. You'll get bigger and better bucks every year.
After picking out a couple of bucks that I'd like to try to hunt, I began to close the distance. I started, hunting some areas that these deer were known to travel, and had some good setups, saw a lot of good deer, but these deer that I was looking for just weren't showing up. So now it's time to hit the road, hit the brush. I started riding the roads, glassing and spotting everywhere I could, and traveling and moving. And it took me a few days, but wasn't long. We got a glimpse of one of the bucks that that we had picked out. Finally, sure enough, I was able to locate one of these bucks I'd been looking for, and he turned up maybe about 2 miles from where we originally had trail cam photos of him. and which is not that uncommon for him to move that much. But he moved into this area that's kind of back in behind the camp. There's an old dry lake area, and it's all grown up now, and the deer are just infested in there. And 90% of the season, if you go in that area, you're gonna see mostly tons of does and fawns in that area. But each fall, that's where some of the big bucks are gonna show up.
When we return, we're back in the deer stand for more Old Mexico bow hunting action. We'll be right back. Don't go on your next hunt without knowing why you might miss. Get your free copy of Shot Placement 101 today. Details at closingthedistance.com. Closing the Distance is brought to you by Ozonics. Undetectable, undeniable. Hunter Safety System, dedicated to saving hunters' lives. Executioner Broadheads, born to kill. Treason, don't just blend, become. And by Citadel, revolutionary shoot-down shake.
So by the time we get this buck located, and it's late January, we're set up on it. I'm sitting there one evening in the blind. I've got a bunch of deer out in front of me, some pretty bucks, some bunch of does, and out steps a big mature buck down at the end of the road. And he's got his attention because I've got all the deer down in front of me. He starts working his way up, up the road, and I'm glassing him, the whole time, just trying to figure out, make sure it's the right buck. And he takes his own sweet time, just working his way up there. And as he gets closer, I realize it's the right buck, the one I'm after. I'm thinking to myself, this is like no rush. Just take your time. Everything's gonna be easy. Well, then the buck starts just like they do. He starts chasing does around, and singles off a little doe, runs her around for a little while. But sooner or later, he comes back out in the road and starts speeding around. I'm thinking, okay, I got this now. Just be calm. He'll get turned around here, and I'll finally get a shot. I've got all these cameras set up at different angles. I've got an action camera set up out in the road. I'm actually trying to get some pass-through type shots, and just trying to break it up to make it. I'm filming by myself, so I want you to be able to see the whole the hunt, the way it's transpiring. So as the buck finally gets around in front of me, I honestly probably had several chances to shoot the deer, but I'm being a little greedy. I'm wanting the footage just to be just right. I'm letting the deer get all at the right angles and in front of me, just so, and every time the deer moves, I've got to move the camera a little bit, but finally just about getting him in the right spot a time or two, and just about time I think I probably drawn my bow like at least twice, and let back down because he'd take a step or two, and I'd readjust the cameras. And then he finally comes back around. I've got him there, getting the deer like I want, and you can hear it. You can hear it. There's back in the background there. There's a doe blowing at something, and she's blown 6 or 8 times, and you can tell it kind of starts to make the deer nervous. And really, some of the deer are running off, but this mature buck, he's actually paying less attention to it than anybody. And he's feeding along there, and just about the time I think I've drawn my bow, that doe is blowing again back there, and he kind of perks up. And in just a hunting situation, I could have sent the arrow, several times there, but it's just not worth it to me. I'm that way. I'm not overzealous to get a shot. I'm gonna take my time, and really didn't think the deer would leave, and if he did leave, I thought he would come back, but sure enough, I guess he finally got enough of it and got a little antsy, and he left out of there, and he never come back. Several weeks have gone by, and I haven't seen this buck again, and sometimes these bucks get off with a doe, and they stay hung up with a doe for, several days at a time before they can get off on another doe. Anyway, long story short, it was probably 2 weeks later before, I'm hunting this same area again. When I started hunting that afternoon, I always check my wind direction, and I knew which way the wind was blowing. I checked it. I put my ozonics out, and facing that direction. I saw deer throughout the evening, but off and on, I didn't have as many deer as what I'd usually been seeing, but I really didn't think that much about it. And until there was a time when I looked up and there was this group of javelinas that were coming in, and the exact way they were coming in, I was actually going to shoot one of them if he got in front of my camera good. And so I'm watching these javelinas, and they just feeding right in, and just as they get into my shooting area, which is exactly where I want to do my shooting, I can tell that they hit that brick wall and they know something's not right. And so they're picking wind up on me and they run off. And I'm thinking, that don't usually happen, especially when I'm running ozonics. And at the time, the wind had been coming and blowing in this direction, and the javelinas are kind of over here. So I get my puffer out and I check, and sure enough, the wind has moved on me. So I have to take my I have ozonics, I use it on this little clamp, and I move it around and get it where it's blowing, back that direction. So I'm sitting here hunting now, and I've got a group of deer that are slowly working up my road, just some does and little bucks, and then I look up, and it's getting, like I say, late in the evening, and I look up, and I catch a glimpse of horns coming through the brush. And my first thought is just a different deer, because I hadn't seen the buck that I'm after in several days now. I look up, and sure enough, he pops out right here on top of me. And he starts coming in. Well, I don't have any deer in front of me this time. And so he comes by, actually comes the same way the javelinas did, and he comes right through, just out of shooting range. He comes right through, and there's some does further down the road from me. So he goes after to check those does. I stay on him, stay watching him there, and it wasn't long. He come back out. I could see bits and pieces of him in the brush, chasing does around. And he comes back out and comes up the road, and he follows these deer back in. And now the deer that are coming in, I can tell that the ozonics is working because they're calm. It's nothing like it was, an hour ago. So now they've came back in, and he starts to feed. And this time I'm doing the same thing. I've got the scenario in my head of what happened on the last hunt. I was like, I'm not letting him get away this time. But there's still a part of me that I'm not just going to take any shot. I'm not going to take a bad shot, and I'm not going to take a shot that's not good on the camera. So once again, I'm letting him feed around and getting into where I want to take the shot. And now that I'm comfortable with it, and the deer's remaining calm, it's just a matter of picking the spot.
Want more from Closing the Distance? Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram. Closing the Distance is made possible by Matthews Solo Cam, Catch Us If You Can, Tree Limb Quiver. There's only one tree limb quiver. Sword Sights, Sharp Solutions in Aiming, Elusive Wildlife Technologies, taking the elusive out of wildlife. The Stage Deer Attractant. Finally, a synthetic scent that works. And by the amazing Luminaut. Can your arrow not do this?
All right, come on, bro. See what you made of. I've already walked over and looked at him. I figured you too. All right. That one didn't go so far, did it? Last time I made you drag one a long way. What do you think, Mark? Still a pretty deer, huh?
It's a nice one.
I got lucky this afternoon, I'll tell you that. You know, I had this buck a couple weeks ago. I just didn't take the shot. I was filming by myself, and you know, I was trying to get everything lined up just right, being patient, not wanting to take a bad shot, and I kind of let him get away from me, you know. So I left, I kind of haunted about it, and here we are 2 weeks later. I've hunted a few times and hadn't seen him, and thought, well, it may not come together, but once I got my hands on this deer, you know, he was every bit what I thought he was going to be. May have lost a little weight over chasing does over the fall, you know, for the last couple of months, but still, this deer's got great mass. I mean, he ends up scoring a 163, and just a beautiful buck. You know, he's a what we call a management deer, but he's still a beautiful buck in my eyes. He's an old buck. We know he's 6 or 7 years old, and you know, this deer's not going to be a 200, and that's what we've been harvesting out here for the trophy deer. That'll put an end on a good season right there. Nothing more fun running an arrow through one. Oh, now we can get him out of here. One of the neat things about here hunting in Mexico is they have an association here, what is basically called Angadi, which is an association that actually recognizes ranches and recognizes the hunters. And if you'll bring your deer in, especially when you come back across the border, they have a place you can bring your deer in. They score them up for you. They give you a cap, and if your deer scores, say, over 160 inches, you get a jacket. That's what they call a jacket buck. It's 160 plus, and also they give away awards for different things, you know, for the top deer in different categories. This Rancho Cuevas in particular, you know, they had 14 jackets overall, and they also had jacket for heaviest mass, had jacket for longest drop time, had jacket for, you know, second overall in all Mexico. I mean, it's just a way that they promote their hunting and management for wildlife here in Mexico. Once again, I'd like to thank the folks at Rancho Cuevas for allowing me to come down here, film, and be a part of their management plan. And over the last several years, I've got to film just a ton of great big bucks, and just seeing lots of stuff, a different atmosphere, different culture here in Old Mexico.
Thanks to Mark Budzeye and Rancho Cuevas. This is a nice management buck that I shot here on the ranch. Came out right at dark and dropped him right in his tracks.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. This is gonna be the money shot right here. All right, now straighten his head.
There you go.
A little bit more. A little bit more.
Right there.
Bam.
On today's episode, pro staffer Johnny Reisinger is in Mexico, and they've got just a short period of time to figure it out and connect on a good deer. And you know, in hunting, time and timing really can be everything. But the truth is, in life, time and timing is really, really a big deal. Because the truth is, we're on this planet for just a short period of time. In the grand scheme of everything, we're really not here for a long period of time. And what we do while we're on this earth really does matter. You know, the Bible says in one place that, he says, what does it matter if you succeed in everything else in life, but you miss out on God? Or in other words, you miss out on the most important thing in life. We only have a short window of time while we're here on this planet. And what we do in that time really matters. And the Bible says that one of the most important things that we could ever do is to connect with God on a personal level and have a personal relationship with Him through His Son, Jesus Christ. And I pray that for you. I hope that for you. And if you've never done that, I can't think of a better time to do that than today. If you'd like to know more about a personal relationship with God through His Son, Jesus Christ, just go to closingthedistance.com and click on the Moment of Truth tab.